Here we are at Ashington Green Lane level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and UK level crossing spotter and trains. Here we are at Battleship Wharf level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and UK level crossing spotter and trains. Here we are at Beale level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Bedlington North level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and UK level crossing spotter and trains. Here we are at Bedlington South level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and UK level crossing spotter and trains. Here we are at Belford level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Anyway. Here we are at Chat Hill station level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Chevington level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Choppington level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and UK level crossing spotter and trains. Here we are at Criston Bank level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Clifton level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. King's Cross, sorry. Here we are at Crag Mill level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Time. Here we are at Dam Dykes level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Dilston level crossing in Northumberland with Joe Thorpe. Here we are at Fallardon level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Felton Lane level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Fenham Lowmore level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Goswick level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Hayden Bridge Station level crossing in Northumberland with Joe Thorpe. Here we are at Hepscott level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and UK level crossing spotter in trains. Here we are at Little Mill level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Longbyre level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and the level crossing channel. Here we are at Longhurst level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Looker level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Marcheys House level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and UK level crossing spotter in trains. Here we are at Morpeth Coopies Lane level crossing in Northumberland with Joe Thorpe. 14288 to Metro Centre. Here we are at Morpeth North level crossing in Northumberland with Joe Thorpe. Here we are at New Hartley level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and UK level crossing spotter in trains. Here we are at Newham level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Newsham, Plessy Road level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and UK level crossing spotter and trains. Here we are at North Seaton level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and UK level crossing spotter and trains. Here we are at Prudhoe station level crossing in Northumberland with Joe Thorpe. Here we are at Scremerston level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Seg Hill level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and UK level crossing spotter and trains. Here we are at Smeefield level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. are at Newsham South Level Crossing in Northumberland with Joe and UK Level Crossing Spotter in trains. We are at Stamford Level Crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Stannington Level Crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Aldham Grange Level Crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Aldham Lane Level Crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. That one took longer to go up as well. Here we are at Warden Level Crossing in Northumberland with Joe Thorpe. Oh. It's 142S78 to Carlisle. Here we are at Walkworth Level Crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. King's Cross. Here we are at Widrington Station Level Crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Winning Level Crossing in Northumberland with Joe and UK Level Crossing Spotter in trains. Here we are at Wooden Gate Level Crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Paul Gilman. Here we are at Wylam Station level crossing in Northumberland with Joe and Rail Tour fan. Done that crossing.
There's a brand new service.